Hello. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here to Parliament for a very special awards ceremony, the Lifeblood VTE Awards 2014. Now this issue is especially important to me, and my apologies for those of you that have heard this tale of woe, but for those that haven't, not long before the last general election I suffered a pulmonary embolism, and it really opened my eyes to the importance of looking at our procedures and policy when it comes to thrombosis. From my experience and through the work with the all-party Parliamentary Thrombosis group, I've learnt a lot about VTE. I know how sudden and devastating the impact of this condition can be, and the risk of developing it is particularly high during an inpatient stay. However, I'm also aware of the extraordinary efforts that clinical staff up and down the country are making in ensuring that patients admitted into their hospitals are assessed for their risk of VTE and offered appropriate thromboprophylaxis. In doing so, they are helping to prevent thousands of avoidable deaths every year. Indeed, in the last 4 years since the VTE prevention was named as the national clinical priority, the NHS has been recognised as a global leader in this field. In 2011, NHS England's approach to VTE prevention was showcased at the Global VTE Prevention Forum in Kyoto. And just last month, the leaders of NHS England's National VTE Prevention Programme were invited to present the outcomes associated with its implementation at the 3rd APAC Forum in Melbourne, Australia. Lifeblood has been central to the drive to give VTE such a high priority in the NHS. When it was founded 12 years ago, it set out to grow the public concern that DVT was not just a travel-related condition, and that thousands of preventable deaths were occurring in the UK every year from hospital-acquired clots. Lifeblood's campaigning to draw the attention of the health policymakers prompted the Health Select Committee's 2005 inquiry into hospital-associated thrombosis, which was instrumental in putting VTE onto the National Patient Safety Agenda. And through its Stop the Clots campaign, Lifeblood has helped to ensure that VTE risk assessment and provision of appropriate thromboprophylaxis is now firmly established standard practice for every adult admitted to hospital. Lifeblood's dedicated volunteers across the UK continue to work tirelessly to increase awareness and education of thrombosis. And today we are here to recognise and to celebrate examples of exemplary leadership in VTE prevention throughout the health service, as well as the generous efforts of Lifeblood's most dedicated fundraisers. Lifeblood would like to thank its most outstanding fundraisers by presenting them with certificates of appreciation, and also to present ambassador awards to several VTE ambassadors in recognition of their active leadership in VTE prevention over the years. Furthermore, Lifeblood would like to celebrate the work of the VTE champions, whose leadership has truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. And I'm delighted that as part of tonight's programme, we have Dr. Dawn Harper and Dr. James Logan from Channel 4's Embarrassing Bodies to present the awards. Having outlined this afternoon's programme and being conscious of the need to stick to the time schedule, I'd like to congratulate all of tonight's winners on their remarkable achievements and hand over to our celebrity guests to present the awards. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the event. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'd just like to say thank you very much for the very kind invitation to come here this evening. It's a real honour to be here, and I spent some time earlier talking to some of you guys, and some of the work that you do for the charity is absolutely brilliant. So it's a real honour to be here to celebrate the work of all you guys and the charity, Lifeblood. So most of you will recognise Dr. Dawn, I'm sure, from the telly, and I do a little bit of telly as well. Normally I'm doing strange things like infesting myself with worms, or putting my arm in a cage of mosquitoes, or in fact...
putting me in a sphere full of 200 mosquitoes, and I'm still talking to you.
And counting your bites, that's right. So we do slightly strange things and embarrass buddies. But there is another reason that I'm here, other than having my arm twisted by Paul on Twitter to come along. But I myself actually have some experience myself. I actually was diagnosed with a pulmonary embolism at the age of 29 after doing quite a few flights throughout Africa, and on my way back I had a pain in my leg. Turned out it was a DVT, and that developed into a PE. So I spent some time in hospital and 6 months on warfarin. So I guess I'm here from my own experience as well, and I understand exactly how important the work of the charity actually is. So I don't know whether you'd like to say anything, or should we get into the awards?
Well, I am lucky enough not to have had a PE or a DVD, but I am still very much a practising NHS GP, so I do see firsthand just how devastating these conditions can be. So it's an honour for both of us, I think, to be here and to recognise some of the incredible work that some of the people in this room have been doing.
Okay, so this brings us to the awards, and the first award, or the first set of awards, is in recognition of fundraising efforts, and the first award goes to Martin Duncan. So if Martin Duncan could come to the front. Go in this way.
We just get you in the middle.
Do you want me the other side?
Yeah, perfect.
That's great. Okay. Nice smile.
Our second award, also in aid of, in honour of. Sorry, I do beg your pardon. There we go. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Our second award, again in recognition of fundraising efforts, goes to David Hall.
Quick step over that way. Lovely. And hold up the award.
Okay, moving on to our third award, again for fundraising. This award goes to Tim Shepherd.
And another great fundraiser, Andy Collier.
The next award for fundraiser goes to Veronica, oh goodness, Dubayasova.
I'm sorry,
I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Okay, it's got a nice smile. And last couple.
I don't know which one to look at.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Is this the last fundraiser? No. Another award for fundraising goes to Christina Perkins.
Sideways. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, well, you just come and stand here and smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stand in the middle.
Christina to tell us why she raised money how she raised money.
Oh.
So,
Which parts?
I think you must tell us about your calendars.
Okay.
I've seen this on Twitter.
Have you? Okay. Now I'm pink. I must be pink. I must be pink. Okay. So last year, while it was snowing, me and 7 girls who own Classic Minis all did a calendar, girls, with our cars for Lifeblood. This year, slightly better organised in July, but about 14 girls. And now we're also doing a boy one. And some of them have 6-packs.
Sounds
amazing.
awful.
I know. But I've done a lot with the mini community, and they've supported me hugely. So although I'm taking this award, it's mostly to my friends and family. And I also at one point shaved my head. So there's been a lot that's happened in the lead up to this, and I'm very grateful. But I'm more grateful as well to everybody that supported me and kept supporting me and kept realising how significant Lifeblood is and how much we can actually do. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay, last but not least in the fundraiser category, this is a joint award and it goes to Richard Baker and Matt Cowing.
Okay, nice smile.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
We're going to go on now to give some awards to ambassadors for the charity, and we're going to start with Shelley Quantrill, who I gather can't be here tonight, but somebody has very kindly offered to pick her award up for her. Do we know her name? There we go. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's very good to her. She gets 2 of these, so we'll wander this way for the photos. You want to over here?
Thank you.
Big congratulations from us. Yeah, great. Thanks very much.
And the second award for Ambassador goes to Sylvia Teese-Round. You get an Oscar.
Our next Ambassador Award goes to Joe Boyd. Show it off.
Yeah.
You worked hard for that. Thank you.
And for our next Ambassador Award, please welcome Carol Law.
And the final Ambassador Award, last but by no means least, goes to Rebecca Brown.
Thank you. Oh, hang on. Yes, make sure you show them off. Wait a second. Thank you. Can I have a photograph with Carol as well? Because we do everything together. Thank you.
So next we've got some special awards. It's the first time we've actually ever offered Outstanding Achievement Awards. And the first individual that we're going to give this to really is amazing. He's made a huge contribution to the field of venous thromboembolism, the prevention and the treatment. He's always ploughed his own furrow. He's always believed that the field of venous thromboembolism needed more attention, and he's drawn attention to it. He's produced the papers, and he also has the human touch, so he can lecture, and he can lecture to anyone and get his message across. So how do we know that there would be an estimated 25,000 deaths every year in the UK if we didn't use thromboprophylaxis through this individual? Who designed and conducted studies worldwide to show that we weren't then using appropriate thromboprophylaxis in hospitals? This individual. Who worked out, for media purposes, that hospital-acquired clots are a greater cause of death than breast and prostate cancer and road traffic accidents and AIDS combined? He carries on working, he designs clinical trials, and he's becoming really the world expert in the new anticoagulants. So Lifeblood would like to recognise the outstanding contribution of Dr. Anders Cohen, who's made the field of epidemiology and the treatment of venous thromboembolism his own. Anders, would you come and...
Thank you. Well, I want to thank Lifeblood and particularly the trustees for offering this award, and I'd particularly like to thank Beverly for supporting me and all the hard work she does. I'm not usually embarrassed, but I do feel embarrassed, so there we are. I'd like to thank my wife and family, and particularly my father, who used to look at me and say, you know, for a clot, you'll go a long way, you know. So, you know, he had faith in my ability to be amongst clots. So there we are. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone, and I really treasure this award. Thank you.
The second award, I need to call the Chairman of Trustees of Lifeblood, Shelley, to come up and give a eulogy about this individual. Shelley.
A eulogy?
Yes.
It's a little bit more optimistic than a eulogy. As Beverly's indicated, my role today is to announce not so much an award, but a recognition of an outstanding commitment to this amazing charity. As we are acknowledging one of our own, we've had to be a little bit secretive about it because we might have tipped off the recipient. Lifeblood has a board of trustees that it gives up a lot of its free time and sometimes the opportunity to earn a crust to further the aims and objectives of the Lifeblood. We have very eminent clinicians and very talented professionals and patient representatives, and we have a wonderful new project manager in the shape of Catherine Johnson-Miller, who stands in your midst, but we would not be able to function at all without the hard work and dedication of Anya Stevens-Boll. let me go on a bit further. Anya is the first contact for people who have lost relatives. She's the first point of contact for people who've suffered DVTs and PEs and who struggle daily with post-thrombotic syndrome. She appears on patient groups. She works with NICE. She's a sympathetic ear and a broad shoulder of practical help and encouragement. She gives support and offers ideas to our fundraisers. She runs our shop. She does all our admin, and she runs it all from a little room in the darkest Wales, all on her own. And the trustees are aware how committed Anya is and continues to be in every aspect of Lifeblood's daily existence. So we acknowledge and mark her contribution to the work of Lifeblood, and I invite Beverly Hunt to present the special award.
Oh, she should come round here, Anya. We can all give it to you. I'm so sorry.
Dressed for the occasion.
Really dressed for the occasion. It could have been worse. I could have had the cloth suit still on. Thank you so much.
Should we come in the middle?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Go on. I've already thoroughly embarrassed myself by standing here like semi-naked without the cloth suit on, so I might as well embarrass myself a little bit more. I don't know what to say really. It's beautiful. It's a lovely, lovely gesture, and Lifeblood, as the trustees know, it's my life really. You know, my mum died of a totally preventable clot. I've had several clots myself, some of which have been missed, and they've left me with a lot of damage. So I have a lot of empathy for people who contact me on a daily basis, basically in the same situation that I was in 30 years ago. And yes, it can be very hard work in the darkest little office in Wales, but it's worth every single person that I can help in some small way by just being there for them, or for offering them advice, or for giving them a shoulder to cry on when things are just really awful for them. And I feel really very privileged to work for Lifeblood and be in the position that I'm in to be able to help so many other people. And just want to thank you all for such a beautiful thing. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to call on Dr. Helen Morrison, who is head of the National VTE programme NHS England, because she's got something very special to give us. And I'd like to call on Paul, who runs this wonderful charity Oars as well, to come and stand with me. Helen, do you want to explain why you're here?
With pleasure. Which side would you
Come on, Paul.
You keep building my part up. I'm not a doctor, so that's the first thing to say. But I have been called a professor before by accident, so doctor's absolutely fine. Yes, the first thing I want to say is I have to apologise that I am not Paul Robinson. Paul actually wanted to be here today himself, but unfortunately training for Blackburn Rovers took precedence, and he's doing some TV for Sky as well, I think. For those of you who don't know, and I have Professor David Fitzmaurice, I think, to thank for this. David mentioned... Yeah, you are there. I thought I saw you propping up the bar. David mentioned to me a little while ago that Paul Robinson had suffered a pulmonary embolism last year following fairly routine surgery. Paul, as I say, for those of you who don't know, is the goalkeeper for Blackburn Rovers, previously played for Spurs and Leeds United. I'm having to read this because I'm not a football fan, and apparently won 41 caps for England. So it was very remiss of me not to even know who this chap was. So I wrote to him and I asked him if he'd be prepared to be an ambassador for our National VTE Prevention Programme, because of his tremendous achievement actually in fighting his way back to fitness. He's still playing championship football at the age of 34. And astonishingly, he said yes. So I went to meet this chap last week or week before, and we filmed a video of Paul talking about his experience, which will be on the NHS Choices website very soon. Some of you might know his story, but if you'll allow me just to say just a couple of things. Basically, 5 days after Paul had some fairly routine surgery, he phoned his team doctor, basically said, I'm not feeling very well, chest pain, coughing up blood, shortness of breath, and it was an Easter weekend, so GP surgery's closed, and his team doctor said, best get yourself down to A&E, get yourself checked out. A&E sent him home, told him he was fine, and the blood, maybe just because that's where you're intubated, putting the tubes down your throat, maybe that's why you're coughing up blood. Anyway, so he goes home, he's got 2 young children. He thinks, well, they've told me I'm fine, but the next day he felt even worse. This guy's 6'4", made of pretty stern stuff, and he actually described it as if somebody was standing on his chest. Crushing chest pain, again, just feeling genuinely unwell and coughing up even more blood. And to cut a long story short, his team doctor said, just take yourself off to Leeds General, where after almost 2 to 3 hours of waiting for a scan, begging for a scan, they finally diagnosed him with a massive pulmonary embolism. In fact, half of his lung had infarcted. He was treated successfully and then had to be on warfarin for 6 months, which obviously meant he couldn't train, couldn't play football. This guy has been playing football since he was 16 years of age, never known anything else. It's what he loves, and this man is now worried on warfarin if he cuts himself shaving. So he knows how lucky he is to be alive. I know that sounds a little bit dramatic, but he said it really has changed his perception of everything. And he's prepared to do all he can to help us raise awareness of VTE for patients, the public, and for healthcare professionals as well. So he gave me this signed shirt. I've been treasuring it. I've been looking after it for a few weeks. It's massive, enormous. My son was very jealous. It might fit you, actually. I think it probably would. But Paul wanted someone to have this in terms of raising money for charity. So I'm delighted, and I've told him what I'm doing today is to say sorry that he couldn't be here personally, but I'm delighted to present this to Lifeblood on his behalf, and I hope it does raise a lot of money.
Thank you very much. So we are going to auction it at a special auction at next year's World Thrombosis Day. And I've brought Paul here, who's another Lifeblood trustee, to tell you about charity oars, because we're going to auction them at the same time.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks very much for everyone turning up. Dr. Dawn and Dr. Jones, thank you. Yeah, the charity oars basically started last year. Well, actually beginning of this year. I, in 2011, had suffered a massive pulmonary embolism, collapsed and died in the ensuite. Just after I said the famous last words, I don't think I feel too well. Such irony. But yeah, I had planned to run a half marathon. I was in training then. My wife and I ran a bit of an RTC, which scuppered my leg up in training. These 2 oars were in my office at home. Spoke to a couple of my cricketing chums, Dean Headley and Simon Jones. They said, we'll get them signed for you and then auction them off. The original idea was April next year, which would be 4 years post my PE, to auction them off. Then speaking to Beverly when we got together a short while ago, and we're looking at World Thrombosis Day and the massive response we've had for the very first one, which is absolutely fantastic. And we've got a whole year now to plan for World Thrombosis Day 2015. And with the oars that we've got there, I've got a couple of cricket bats. Ian Jackson, who does 7 triathlons in 7 days, absolutely mad. He's got some bits and pieces as well, signed bits of memorabilia, and obviously articles like this from Paul, wonderful. And the idea is kind of October the 13th next year, much the same as today, then a nice function, fantastic auction, every penny goes to Lifeblood. And that's key for me personally. And also it continues the awareness and continues the charity carrying on doing the great work it does. So that's where the shirt will be going next year. we'll sort out an online bid, so you can, if you want to bid for it, you can, or just turn up and book a lovely table of 10 for yourselves. That'd be fine.
And I'll make sure he comes himself this time, not me.
Wonderful. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
So it's really up to me to make some concluding remarks and to thank Andrew Gwynne MP for hosting this function. The all-party Parliamentary Thrombosis Group have been amazing over the years. Lifeblood has worked with them and we have achieved huge change in NHS England so that we now lead the world in what we do, which is trying to improve the prevention and treatment of venous thromboembolism. And just to mark how well we are doing, the World Thrombosis Day team did do an Ipsos Mori poll across many countries across the world to look at the awareness of venous thromboembolism in the general public. And they found that overall there was awareness of about 40%. So 40% of the public roughly knew what a deep vein thrombosis was, but there were places like Holland and Japan that only had 20% awareness. Now, can you imagine who topped that poll? It was the UK. We had 86% awareness, which was really much greater than anyone else. So we really feel that we are doing well here. And also we did help initiate World Thrombosis Day. I think the International Society of Thrombosis and Hemostasis saw what we were doing here and achieving here, that they needed to take it globally. So it's a time to say, congratulations to Lifeblood, but we mustn't rest on our laurels. We've heard many stories today about people where DVT and pulmonary emboli have been missed, and definitely the treatment and prevention can be improved. So thank you for coming. Thank you very much to all the guests for presenting the prizes, and I hope that we see you all here next year. Thank you very much.